Have you ever told yourself, just 5 minutes, just one quick check, just one video, just one scroll, and then suddenly an hour is gone, maybe two, and you don't even remember what you just watched. It feels automatic, almost like you weren't fully in control, like something else was deciding for you. And the strange part is, you knew it was happening. You felt it. That quiet awareness in the background saying, you should probably stop. But you didn't. You kept scrolling. Again, and again, and again. Most people think this is a discipline problem, a lack of willpower, a bad habit. But that's not what's really happening. Because if it were that simple, you would just stop. But you don't, and there's a reason for that, a deeper reason. Something built into the way your brain works. Because your brain was not designed for the world you're living in. It was designed for survival, for a completely different environment. One where information was scarce, where stimulation was limited, where novelty was rare, and every new piece of information mattered, because it could mean food, or danger, or opportunity. So your brain evolved to pay attention to what's new, to what's different, to what might be important. And that system is still active today. But the world has changed. Now, you carry infinite stimulation in your pocket. Endless content, endless novelty, endless information. Every swipe gives you something new, something unpredictable, something slightly different. And that unpredictability is exactly what your brain is looking for. Because your brain is constantly asking one question: what's next? And every time you scroll, you're answering that question. But not in a normal way. You're feeding it something much more powerful, a variable reward. Sometimes the next post is boring. Sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes it's exciting. And sometimes it's exactly what you were looking for. And that unpredictability creates something incredibly addictive, because your brain starts to anticipate the reward. Not the content itself, but the possibility of something better, something more interesting, something more satisfying. And that anticipation releases dopamine. Dopamine is often misunderstood as pleasure, but it's not exactly pleasure. It's the chemical of expectation, of wanting, of seeking. It's what drives you to keep going, to keep looking, to keep searching, even when you're not enjoying it anymore. And that's the key, because at some point, scrolling stops being enjoyable, but you keep doing it anyway, because your brain is no longer chasing pleasure. It's chasing the next possibility, the next reward, the next hit. And that creates a loop, a powerful loop. You scroll, you get a small reward. Your brain says, do it again. You scroll again. Another reward. Or maybe not. But that's the point, because the uncertainty keeps you hooked. And over time, this loop becomes automatic. You don't think about it. You don't decide to scroll. You just do it, like a reflex, like a habit that runs on its own. And the more you repeat it, the stronger it becomes. Because your brain learns something very simple. This is important. And anything your brain labels as important gets prioritized over everything else. Even things that actually matter more, like work or goals or rest. Because those things don't offer immediate rewards. They require effort, time, patience. And your brain doesn't like that trade. It prefers something else, something easier, something faster, something that gives you something right now. And that's exactly what scrolling provides. Instant stimulation, instant novelty, instant reward, with almost no effort. And that combination is incredibly powerful. But there's another layer to this, something even deeper. Because scrolling is not just about dopamine, it's also about escape. Every time you pick up your phone, you're not just looking for content, you're looking for relief. Relief from boredom, from stress, from discomfort, from your own thoughts. Because silence is uncomfortable. Stillness is uncomfortable. Being alone with your mind can feel overwhelming. So your brain looks for a way out, something to fill the space, something to distract you, and scrolling becomes the easiest option. It's always there, always available, always ready. And it works instantly. You don't have to think, you don't have to try, you just swipe, and the discomfort disappears, at least for a moment. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because your brain starts to associate scrolling with relief, with comfort, with escape. So every time you feel even a small amount of discomfort, your mind automatically suggests, check your phone, scroll a little, just for a minute. And most of the time, you listen. Not because you want to, but because it feels natural, it feels automatic, because the loop is already built. And the more you follow it, the stronger it becomes. Until eventually, it's no longer a choice, it's a default. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Because scrolling doesn't just affect your time, it affects your mind in ways you don't immediately notice. Every time you scroll, you're training your brain, you're teaching it how to focus. Or, more accurately, how not to focus. Because scrolling fragments your attention. Short bursts of content, constant switching, endless novelty. Your brain never settles. It never goes deep. It just skims the surface, again and again. And over time, that becomes your new normal. Your brain starts to expect constant stimulation, constant change, constant input. So when you try to do something slow, something meaningful, something that requires focus, it feels wrong, it feels difficult, it feels almost painful. Because your brain has been rewired, not intentionally, but gradually, through repetition, through habit, through thousands of small moments, where you chose to scroll instead of stay. And now, staying feels harder, focusing feels heavier, thinking feels slower, because your brain is used to something else, something faster, something easier, something more stimulating. And this creates a hidden consequence. You start to lose tolerance for boredom, for silence, for stillness. But those states are where deeper thinking happens, where creativity happens, where clarity happens. And without them, your mind stays on the surface, always busy, but rarely deep, always stimulated, but rarely satisfied. And that's the paradox of scrolling. It gives you more, but leaves you with less. More content, more stimulation, more input, but less focus, less clarity, less control. And the longer this continues, the more it shapes your behavior, your habits, your identity. Because what you repeatedly do becomes who you are. But there's something even more subtle happening, something most people never notice. Scrolling creates an illusion of productivity, an illusion of engagement, an illusion that you're doing something. Because your brain is active, it's processing information, images, words, ideas. But none of it sticks, none of it builds, none of it accumulates into something meaningful. It's just consumption, passive, endless. And that creates a strange feeling, a kind of emptiness, because you spent time but gained nothing. And your brain feels it, even if you don't consciously think about it. There's a subtle dissatisfaction, a quiet awareness that something is off. But instead of stopping, you scroll more, trying to fill that gap, trying to feel something, trying to find something that makes it worth it. But it rarely comes, because the system isn't designed to satisfy you. It's designed to keep you engaged, to keep you scrolling, to keep you coming back. And it does that by never fully giving you what you're looking for, just enough to keep you going, but never enough to make you stop. And that's what makes it so powerful, so difficult to break, because you're not just fighting a habit, you're fighting a system that was designed to capture your attention, to hold it, to monetize it. But here's the most important part, the part that changes everything. You are not broken. Your brain is not weak. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Seek novelty, avoid discomfort, pursue reward. The problem is the environment. An environment that exploits those instincts, that amplifies them, that feeds them endlessly. So the solution is not just willpower, it's awareness. Because the moment you truly see the pattern, it starts to lose its power. Not completely, but enough. Enough for you to pause. Enough for you to notice the urge. That moment when your hand reaches for your phone without thinking. That moment when you feel the impulse to scroll, even when you don't want to. And instead of acting on it, you observe it, you recognize it, you understand it. And in that small space between impulse and action, you regain control, not by force, but by awareness. Because awareness creates choice, and choice breaks loops. You don't have to stop scrolling completely. You don't have to remove it from your life. But you do have to see it for what it is: a system, a pattern, a loop. And once you see it clearly, you can start to change your relationship with it. You can scroll with intention instead of automatically. You can stop when you choose instead of when the content ends. You can decide instead of react. And that shift is everything. Because the real problem was never scrolling. It was losing control without realizing it. And once you see that, you start to take it back, one moment at a time, one decision at a time, until eventually, you're no longer trapped in the loop, you're just passing through it. And that makes all the difference.